We want justice. We want justice. We want justice. Hmm, very yummy. This film reminded me of my political class in 10th grade. Despite how preachy my teacher was, I didn't understand anything in the class and I spent half of my time yawning. Unfortunately, I had the same experience today while watching this movie. I love Viduthalai Part 1, where the story was about a constable cop who embarks on this journey of morality versus brutality while also trying to capture a separatist group leader. Viduthalai Part 2 is about why Vijay Sethupathi's character became this separatist group leader who the police are trying to capture. My frustration with Part 2 is that all the elements that made Part 1 a freaking good film are completely missing in Part 2. The lead actor Soori, who was so good in Part 1, is barely in Part 2. In Part 1, I was so invested in his journey and character arc, but in Part 2, they decided to spend almost 2 hours on Vijay's character journey. Sure, Vijay may be the biggest star, but I went into the film to watch him, to watch what happens to his journey. Part 2 is 3 hours long, out of which they decided to spend 2 hours on Vijay's character, which frankly was boring. I didn't connect with his story at all, but it wouldn't have been a major issue if they spent just like half an hour on him. But 2 hours? Come on, man. The things that they show in those 2 hours to explain why he's this anti hero could have been just shown in 45 minutes, in my opinion. But well, who cares about my opinion, right? I care. I bloody care about my own opinion. In most movies, why does someone become an anti hero? Either his family gets killed, or he's suppressed by the system, or he's standing up for the underprivileged. The audience knows these things. If you're going to spend 2 hours to show why he's an anti hero, then you got to do it well. But they didn't, because it resulted in me yawning. It's a shame because Vetrimaaran is a great director, and secondly, Part 1 was a great film. I connected with the lead character's journey in Part 1. I didn't connect in Part 2. I connected with the romantic pair in Part 1. I didn't connect in Part 2. I connected with the villagers suffering because of police brutality in Part 1. I didn't connect in Part 2. And these are just some examples. Another major issue was the political messaging in the film. It was overstuffed, preachy, and complicated. Now, either I'm dumb that I didn't get the message, or it was complicated. I think it was a mixture of both. Aisha, do you think I'm dumb? Just like my school teacher, Vijay's character just talks and talks and talks about his political ideologies that at a certain point it started going over my head, my ears, my armpits, from everywhere. Yeah, what to do, man? Government is like that only. The government won't change, yaar. Yeah, I agree with you. What? Why do I agree with you? Because you make sense. Jai Donald Trump. Leaving the messaging aside, I also thought the editing was poor. Out of nowhere, a background music starts, a scene starts abruptly, then stops suddenly. It was a mess. My theory is that the original cut of this film is maybe 4 or 5 hours. So maybe the director got a bit confused as to what to keep, what to edit out, which resulted in a very poorly edited film. My point is that it's not seamless. It's clearly visible that they struggled to keep a well structured film. It's not just editing issues, it had a lot of continuity issues as well. One character is dead in one scene, then how's he alive in the next scene? They didn't address the romantic angle from the part one. Then they say something in one scene, then they contradict themselves in another scene. Oh my god, my head. It's not a bad film, but it's a poorly executed film structurally and technically. The only good parts about this film was the initial 20 minutes, the climax, and the acting. But I have to mention they did a very good job in making one of the most annoying and evil characters. He was so annoying that I myself wanted to get into the screen and kill him, which is a testament to how well he acted and was directed. And that's the bloody frustration that they could have made part 2 a great film as well had they focused more on what made part 1 a great film. So in my rating scale, if part 1 gave me an orgasm, part 2 could only make me horny. Oh no. Uh, do you know what the real injustice is? You watching this review and not pressing like or subscribe. Do it, or else you will have blood on your hands.